One of my boys told me that Anthony gave this girl Melinda a case of herpes, genital herpes, back in sophomore year.
Syphilis, chlamydia, HPV, and gonorrhea. Everybody loves their STDs.
I don't have sex, you get an STD. Don't have sex unless it's with me.
Oh, my ex-con is a filthy tramp, she's a walking STD. I love this girl, all the money in the world, but this is what she gave to me.
Well, I wouldn't mind catching herpes. In fact, it might be nice. Be one less thing to worry about, because you can't catch herpes twice. Gift that keeps on giving, but that's alright by me. I'd rather be taking Valtrex instead of AZT.
All right, welcome to Last Man on Earth. My name is Lex Jurgen. As always, I'm flanked by Matt Ralston. Like most people, Matt has taken the government shutdown pretty hard, though he'll tell you it still pales in comparison to the West Hollywood sodomy shutdown of 2012 when power bombs went on strike demanding more emotional support. And you thought Yosemite had a roadside poop problem. Have you been affected, Matt, by the government shutdown? Have you found your daily routine dramatically impeded?
No, I haven't flown, though, so I heard that the TSA is a problem. But it would be cool if they all quit their jobs and that job didn't exist anymore. Like
the TSA?
Yeah, I would totally take my chances and be completely fine with zero screening whatsoever.
Really? You wouldn't look at the guy in like the head robe or something like that a little more suspiciously? I mean, I don't. You remember flying after 9/11? Certainly, you must have looked at the guys, the swarthy guys with like the beards and the headgear and stuff like that a little differently.
Dude, I flew once and I was freaked out. I didn't sleep the whole flight. I was flying from where was I flying from? Hawaii. I was flying from Honolulu to LA. And in Honolulu, these guys in front of me had Arabic passports.
Yes.
I think they were Indonesian. And they were young, very well dressed. They had no bags, no carry-on, nothing, except one guy was carrying like a laptop just in his hand. They immediately, once they got on the plane, started watching cleric videos and then sat down in the aisle of the plane / just stood by the bathroom for 4 hours without going in. I was almost certain they were planning to kill us, and I think they were.
Were you looking at the other
something?
Were you looking at the other white guys on the plane saying, "Let's roll, like ready, let's go"? You eyeball the other white.
I eyeballed the whole plane, and
Yeah.
It was fat people sleeping.
Yes.
And I was like, "Shit,
Nobody cares.
I'm gonna have to take this into my own hands here." I don't know what the fuck they were doing, but it wasn't normal.
Well, there were those. I remember in I think it was Minnesota. They arrested like 6 or 7 clerics, Muslim fundamentalists, off the plane like about a month or two after 9/11. And they were intentionally like they were legal and they were all fine with what they were doing, but they were intentionally trying to stir up problems on the airplanes just to prove a point that like they were talking loudly in Arabic and like they weren't like yelling, "We're going to blow the plane up," but they were just talking loudly in Arabic, watching those videos and stuff. And just because they were trying to get like ACLU, they were trying to get like civil rights complaints going because obviously, especially after 9/11, if you remember, it was fucking, they were pulling aside every like swarthy looking Arabic dude.
I mean, that would be enough to get a group of white people kicked off the plane too. That's just weird behavior. I mean, you can't do anything weird on a plane.
Not anymore, you can't. No, you used to be able to do all sorts of weird. Although,
they want to kick you off so they can fucking put someone else in your seat.
Yeah, but they were trying to make a point that because I'm Muslim and I'm speaking Arabic, you're going to typecast me as a bomber. Therefore, you're going to like not let me hang in the aisle or hang by the lavatory. They started changing all the rules.
I get it. I'm glad they were kicked off the plane.
I am too. And by the way, I think we should do my idea is to have a TSA-free year, and we just see how many planes go down. Like we just have a year without the TSA, and we just see how many planes get like high. I mean, you reinforce the doors. You can't get in the pilot door anymore. Which seemed like a good idea.
It would be zero. No one's trying to take planes down anymore.
There'd be a couple loons who would try, like that shoe bomber kind of guy, or the underwear bomber or whatever it was, put shit in their underwear. But besides that, I think people could take them down. Although, people also forget, by the way, that before 9/11, you just didn't walk on an airplane. You still had to go through screening. They had the metal detectors.
You didn't have to take your shoes off.
There was a bunch of other. Yeah, it was less intrusive, but you still had to go through a metal. I remember walking through a metal detector. You took all the shit out of your pockets, and then you walked through the metal detector. Then it's sort of like at the stadiums now.
Well, that I can stand. Yeah, I mean, I get taking your stuff out of your pockets and walking through a metal detector.
Yes.
That seems reasonable.
It was the new thing was the shoes and the belts, the laptops, all the other crap that has to be individually taken out.
Like the liquids.
But
it was also the whole attitude. Well, they immediately stationed troops, National Guard with machine guns at every airport, as if I don't know what that was. I think it was part of just the New World Order and establishing that, we're going to enact the Patriot Act and shit's going to be different from now on. But it was more just, okay, no one's arguing. I'm going to walk through a metal detector. I'll take this out of my pocket. But there wasn't the wait here. Like after you cross through, they always say wait, and I'm like, for what, fucker? What are you talking about? What am I waiting for? For you to say okay, now you're good?
I don't like being barefoot with a bunch of people. That feels very like a Egyptian sauna or Turkish bath thing to me. Just being naked, being footless, like a barefoot with strangers.
I don't like the scanners. They
really.
I don't like people looking at my balls.
I don't mind that. I kind of like
when they
I kind of smile. I wink at them.
They buried this story real hard when they first enacted those scanners. It was like 10 years ago, and this high school volleyball team was going through the scanners, girls volleyball team, and the TSI guy was beaten off to the monitor.
Yeah,
and they fired him, but no one ever talked about it.
It sounds like a horrible story, Matt. It also sounds like something that you and I would do if we were TSA agents because you're so fucking bored. Are you telling me that like if the girls the UW volleyball team was walking through, you wouldn't be checking the scanner out on them? I don't know about the masturbating part, maybe a little bit.
I don't know.
You get pretty bored. You get pretty bored
I
there.
don't know what I would do. I might think about taking a plane down, honestly.
Would you think about
all day?
Would you think about insisting on a pat down for all the hot chicks you walk through? I gotta say that's a very human quality to want to sort of abuse the attractive women who walk through.
Well, I actually told this one TSA agent because I'm just fucking sick of it, and I was in Alaska where it's always some ex-military guy that has a chip on his shoulder and thinks he's Captain America, and so this lady went in front of me, and she said, "Sorry, I don't want to." And they said, "You've been chosen for a pat down." And she said, "I don't want to be patted down by a man." And they said, "Okay, we'll bring a woman over." And then so he went to pat me down as well. And I said, "I'm sorry, I can't have a man pat me down because I'm gay." And then he was just like, "Huh? Well, I don't know." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's like a sexual thing." So
you should be able to pick I think you should be able to pick your gender regardless, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think they've ever heard a man request a woman.
Say you were really, but now they think about it, it makes sense. Although the women are hardly attractive. It's not like Cheryl Tiegs walks over, or some hot model walks over to pat you down. It's some butch in tight slack she barely fits into.
No, I was just being a dick. I'm sure he assumed I wasn't actually gay. Maybe.
Just say your father molested you as a child, and you need a woman. This week's show is sponsored by the new Spider-Man movie, casting a transgender actor to play a high school buddy of Peter Parker. The internet is abuzz, and so are we, because transgendered are 1/3 of 1% of this nation, and it's time they got 40% or so of the attention. The new Spider-Man movie, now you have to see it. It was a big breaking news story that the next Spider-Man, live-action Spider-Man, has cast a woman. I guess it's a woman who is now a man, like this is 20-something, I don't know, transgendered actor to play a buddy role of Peter Parker in the movie. I think he has one line. It's huge, though, Matt, because now there's finally transgender actors in the Marvel comic universe.
Okay,
What you've been waiting for. I feel like first of all, there's obviously way too much attention on the transgender casting of anybody. They mentioned 4 other shows that also put out huge press releases saying, "Oh, by the way, don't forget we have transgender actors. We cast them too." It seems like they should be on more meaningful content. Like they'd want to be like, "Oh, we're in an Oscar movie, or we're in like some meaningful film."
We're in a movie about the making of the Oscars.
Well, just like I guess if there was like a film about where a transgender had a serious role, and it was like The Crying Game. Say The Crying Game, for instance, where it's sort of a transcendent movie or transcendent role for like transgender. but like Spider-Man, Peter Parker's buddy in high school. Like,
Well,
okay.
isn't Spider-Man? Is Spider-Man? Does he live in New York?
Yes, he does.
Because New York, is one of the trans capitals of the country.
Yeah, but it should not matter. Shouldn't it not matter that you actually have a transgender high school buddy?
Well, if you're doing it right, you can't tell anyway. So for all I know, half the actors in Spider-Man are transgendered. Assuming it's not, a Bruce Jenner situation where it's more or less.
No, I saw the picture. You can kind of tell. It's just it's actually like sort of a large girl who became a boy. It's just I don't know. It's not exactly like the hot I'll call the hot transgender. I don't know. The whole thing to me is if you have to shout it out from the rooftop, then you haven't really arrived. You haven't quite arrived yet. I know they did it for a long time with gay actors. And now it's transgender actors. Also, by the way, it's just a very small percent of the population, and they're making such a huge deal about it. And the movie's going to suck. Also, when they first announced the headline, I thought it was Jake Gyllenhaal because he's in the movie. I thought Gyllenhaal.
You thought he was
transgender.
He's turning into a woman?
That's what I thought.
Like
I don't know.
Maggie Gyllenhaal?
I don't know. Don't forget to become a patron of the show on patreon.com/Last Minute. Thanks to all our new patrons. Get this shit now before it disappears. If you wish to contact the show, hit us up on Twitter at Last Minute Podcast or on Facebook, also Last Minute Podcast. All right, on to the show. Matt, we have to talk about the Gillette razor ad. Everybody's talking about it, but I don't think in the way Gillette thought they would be. The best men, when they came out with the title, The Best Men Can Be, I thought about the Melania Trump Be Best. The Be Best hashtag. She came out because she doesn't speak English very well.
Right.
It was like a play off the best a man can get, but in an awkwardly worded, like we have to contort our famous slogan into something sort of about virtue signaling about men being better men. So the best men can be.
Best men can be.
The best men can be. It was like they didn't put a lot of time into that, but it had to sound like their original slogan, but something else. So they call it a short film to make sure it wasn't seen as an advertisement, which it clearly is. And it's only, I think...
Since when does Gillette make short films?
I don't know.
Do they have any feature material
coming out?
See?
I think it's before the actual ending portion where they kind of tell you to buy Gillette. I think it's 75 seconds. So let's say a very short, like even shorter than I Love Basketball by Kobe Bryant.
I mean, technically any commercial could be considered a short film, I suppose.
Well, they're telling a story. They're telling a narrative. They hired a real director, a female director, of course. You have to fire if you're really going to talk about the problem with men. You got to hire a female director.
So is she thoroughly embarrassed and will never work again? Since
no,
everyone's mocking this.
No, I think it came out exactly as she wanted. I don't. By the way, so you shouldn't care whether or not it's a male or female director, except maybe if the entire subject matter of your short film is the problem with men. Then people are going to ask, like, who made this? Besides Jill, who actually made this? And it's a woman who came up in the Procter & Gamble film diversity for their directing their commercials. Procter & Gamble owns Gillette. Outspoken female activist, which is fine. But when she starts making like here's the ultimate film on the problem with men, and it's an outspoken feminist, then people are going to start asking questions.
Yeah.
So
I have a lot.
You have a lot. So the film shows the premise of the film, obviously, and they're not the first people to do this. Remember the NBA Lean In campaign, where like the players would say "Lean In."
Oh right.
Yes, that was like 3 or 4.
They just said "Lean In." That was the whole thing.
Yeah. Anytime like anytime a male-dominated business or sports league or something like that has an excessive number of rapes that month, then they have to come out with some sort of men can do better social campaigning. Or breast cancer. The NFL right after that did the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. They initiated. Yeah, look, our guys beat up a lot of their wives and girlfriends. But hey, we're breast cancer. We're raising money for breast cancer. It's all good here. But I don't understand. So the whole premise of this is that men are not. Masculinity is toxic. Let's first off, you can't get away from that. That's part of the theme of this. That men somehow are instead of teaching their boys to use Gillette razors and shave themselves during puberty, and also teach them to be chivalrous, gallant, caring men, sensitive men, that they're just teaching them to beat each other up, to bully one another, and to sexually harass women, and that needs to stop.
Yeah, the premise, it was sort of that men are naturally inclined, like without being directed any given way, they will simply beat the shit out of each other
Yes.
and then go rape. Which there probably is some truth to that.
Yeah, I think it definitely runs in family. I get that point. I mean, the thing it was like taking like what a woman. It's sort of like taking what a woman sees as a archetypal cliche of men, like the bad side of men, and applying it to all men. If they had simply at the beginning of the movie said like, look, like 90% of dudes or 95% of dudes aren't like this, but if, hey, for you, small number of guys who are just fucking hostile beasts, this adds for you. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just like I could do a film about like horribly gold digging, asinine women who are just on the take all the time, and just say, okay, women, this isn't for all of you. this is particularly for you. So, for instance, Matt, in the short film, all the guys are flipping burgers at the backyard barbecue, as guys do, and there's two boys rolling around on the ground in front of them, beating the crap out of each other.
They're all schlubby men.
Yes,
and they almost made them look almost nondescript, almost conform, as if all men are the same and they're 30 pounds overweight.
It was a backyard suburban dad.
Yeah.
And they
were lined up like drones, like almost signifying these men aren't important,
or that they don't think for themselves, or they just follow like the Borg. They just follow like the directive, the male archetype directive, without thinking, and therefore they watch two boys rolling around the ground, beating the crap out of each other, and their mindset is, oh, boys will be boys.
Right.
Matt, let me ask you: have you ever been to a barbecue where like 12-year-olds were just fisticuffing the crap out of each other? And that the guys were standing around just going like, "Oh, boys will be boys," as the two kids are beating the crap.
I don't attend a lot of barbecues in like rural Alabama. During the 4th of July when people are blackout drunk on moonshine, and
I have.
There's a Klan rally. No, I mean I've been around good parents and bad parents and all different kinds of parents. And a common theme is if kids were doing that, they would say stop, and it might be you're in timeout, or fuck you, or go sit in your room, or I'm going to smack you on the ass, or something. But
it may not be the most sensitive breakup of the fight. It may not be the LA timeout. Think about what you've done and go through search your feelings for what's wrong here. It may be the drunk dad just like get the fuck off the ground now and whatever, and whacking the kid.
Yeah.
Fine, but at least they're not gonna watch the kids roll around like gladiators on the ground, beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah, and as if men of any ilk don't know that already, as if they need Gillette to tell them how to conduct themselves and raise their children. It's ludicrous. I mean, obviously, I don't know if we've stated this. This will do nothing. It's completely frivolous.
No, it's an. I don't think even Gillette. I don't think the guys who have run Gillette for the last 100 years, the ones who the old dudes at the Gillette factory, have any sense that this is going to sell more razors. In fact, Gillette's under a lot of pressure now because places like Dollar Shave Club and Harry's have undercut their prices dramatically, realizing that Gillette has a 4,000% markup on their products.
Right.
For the last, it's just there's Gillette and there's Bic. There's only two companies that make razors. And they sort of have this duopoly where they charge a shitload of money, relatively speaking, for the disposable razors that cost them about 11 cents. Each one costs them like 11 cents to produce.
Yeah, and that must irritate people because I noticed they're always locked up.
Oh, the razors.
Yeah, at the CVS.
You mean the nicer, like the $8 ones or the $9 ones? You must go for the nice ones.
The replacement cartridges.
Yeah.
I don't use razors. I mean, I would like to make a short film explaining why you shouldn't take a sharp, chiseled metal object and apply pressure to it and put it on your face. That's a horrible idea.
Your short film's not going to do as well.
Well, if there's something I could teach men, it's that there's a better way to shave. You get an electric razor, and you can get a very close shave without, messing around with the whole concept of towing this very, very razor thin line between slicing your face open and taking the hair off of your
Well,
face.
with those cheap ass blades, it's hard to cut anything that they that they put out. So there's another portion of the short film where the boys are cyberbullying another boy. A poor redheaded kid, like with glasses, of course, is being cyberbullied by a bunch of other boys, and they're calling him loser and freak and all sorts of stuff via text. Mm-hmm. So I did a little research on that, Matt. It turns out that cyberbullying, the texting, nasty shit, is done dramatically more often by girls than it is by boys.
Oh yeah, it's like 90%
out,
more.
As it turns, I mean, boys are still the more likely to physically bully one another on the playground and actually, shove each other around. Girls don't do that, but the actual this direct message or text or social messaging stuff where all the girls are picking on one girl until she kills herself.
Yeah,
it's girls. It's like heavily girl. It's heavily a girl trait to they call it speaking ill. The speaking ill bullying, where they actually talk shit about each other and try to harass, verbally and textually harass people.
Yeah, it's like anything else. I mean, the boys will rough another boy up and will bully other boys, but women are more insidious and calculated, yes. And they will get together and say, we're going to bring this person down. And we've all seen it happen before. And
the problem with this is because the boys bullying is very in your face, it's much easier to control. So you can if you're on you have a playground monitor, you can see the kids shoving each other. But what the girls are doing is much more heinous in a way because it's all done behind the scenes, and the teachers, the principal, and the parents don't even know what's going on. Like if a kid gets in the old days, the kid would get the Brady Bunch kid would come home with a black eye, and the dad would have to investigate why he had a black eye, and then they find there was a bully at school who was punching everybody, and then
can't we get their bikini line trimmer, product to put out a commercial explaining that this is not admirable behavior? I'm surprised women that mothers don't understand that their daughters shouldn't be trying to ruin someone else's life on purpose.
So there's the third act of the film is a third lesson to be learned is when girls come out in bikinis at a party, in skimpy bikinis. They look like late teen, college age girls in bikinis, and some guys are ogling and gawking them. And then another guy who's learned his lesson from Gillette steps in and says, "Guys, that's not how we treat women. We need to stop this kind of behavior now."
That guy would get clowned so hard until he would be forced to leave the party. And if anyone in that group knew him, which I'm assuming they would then bring that up every time they saw him for the next 10 years, and eventually he would be phased out of the group.
I agree with you, except in the rare case where that guy is the date rape guy who pretends to be the defender of women, and then gets with them later on. Oh, Steve, you're so chivalrous, standing up for us. Well, let's go up to my room and talk about it. Get your panties off.
Well, I was picturing not having that friend, but
no. But here's a real issue with that scenario, which is that the whole premise is that men should not catcall, or men should not go, "Hey, lady, nice tits," or stuff like that. We all kind of understand that. But if the girls are coming out in skimpy bikinis and parading around in skimpy bikinis, the idea that men are not supposed to react to that in some sort of visceral way.
Depends on the scenario. Yes. If you're a big group of friends and you know the girl, this is your relationship, you can say, "Hey, yeah, tits are looking great today." Whatever.
Or just the idea. I mean, women are dressing provocatively. The feminists will always say it's our right to dress as we want. We don't do it for the men. But clearly, a girl is shaving her bikini line and wearing a tiny bikini at a co-ed party because she wants to look good for the guys. I mean, or maybe the other girls in competition, whatever the fuck it is, but she's showing herself off. I always have pictures a spring break wet t-shirt contest where the girls are getting doused in their wet t-shirts, but the guys in the audience are not allowed to say anything because it's disrespectful. So yeah, men are supposed to restrain themselves in their reaction to seeing women that they, sexualize women, but the women are not supposed to restrain themselves in anything they're doing. They can just basically run around being teasy and no clothing, and men are not supposed to react because that's just not the way men should be.
Yeah, well,
that seems to be a massive double standard.
Well, men are going to react.
Of course they are.
So I mean, I don't know that they would. If men were reacting that way, that's the way that amateurs might behave. I mean, you're probably going to want to play it cool, assuming your goal is to bang one of these bikini girls. So
you're gonna stare when there's some girl
you're gonna sneak a look or something.
Yes. You're not. Well, they have the guys. The guy comes out and ogles her, and the other guy has a camera, picks up his camera and starts shooting the girls. Like, yeah, Bob, get your camera. Bikini girls are here. Like,
Oh, great. Well, let me tell you something, ladies. You're free to dress however you want, obviously, but maybe at a party exclusively populated by rapists, maybe that's the bad time to do that. I don't know, because these guys, if one guy's saying, don't say that to the girls, and the other one's grabbing a camera, yeah, you're at a rape convention. So I would just for
yeah, rape convention, or every single 80s movie ever, like every John Hughes movie ever, where like the guys are like trying to get laid and it's teenagers, and the girls are like, what's the scene in 16 Candles when they're stealing the girl's underpants and like showing them off in the bathroom.
Right.
That would be sexual assault. That would be seen as sexual assault or nothing less in this day and age.
That would never happen, though, would it?
I don't think so. I don't remember from high school. I went to high school in the 80s. I don't remember that happening.
Was John Hughes just a super creep?
No, I think he was.
Of that?
I think he was. It was teens. They were teen sex comedies, and I think that like people. It was all. Nobody was getting sexually assaulted.
He
could
have just bought a bunch of panties from any store. Why
it was
did
like
he
the old
need
panty.
her
It was
panties?
like the whole.
Was he smelling them like
you
a
remember?
Japanese
You remember
businessman?
Animal House, obviously, right?
Yeah.
John Belushi's on a ladder, like climbing in to see a girl changing, like getting naked and changing her clothes.
Well, that movie's very rapey.
Yes,
in a not good
but
way.
that's your content. If you put yourself in the 1977, it's supposed to take place in the early 60s, but if you take a place in the 1978 context of 1978 movies, it doesn't seem off-putting at all. I watched it recently, like a year ago, and I thought, damn, that's really weird. Like, and then I realized that was just 2018 me looking at this versus 30 years ago and going, that's kind of funny that he's like staring at the girl like changing her clothes. I mean, it's just something that when you saw it as if you saw it as a teenage boy, you were like, oh, that's I wish I could do that. That's kind of hilarious. Yeah. And then of course he gets injured. He has to hurt himself doing it. There has to be some sort of punishment for it. But now looking back on it, that would be seen as like rape / sexual assault / gross, and there'd be a protest march in front of the movie theater.
You don't see those guys much anymore. The Peeping Tom guys, I guess, because of pornography and.
You mean the actual Peeping Toms?
Yeah.
Or the '80s movie, like fun guys steal a bikini top from the girls.
Well, every movie used to be. I mean, Back to the Future. It was always. I had thought as a kid this was like a common phenomenon. A guy gets a ladder. I don't know how you transport the ladder without getting shot.
Like maybe it's up in the tree in Back to the Future.
Yeah, like if there was a there's a guy carrying a ladder down your street right now, I'm pretty sure I would notice that and maybe take note.
I think those guys have all moved on to hacking webcams and so forth. They've gotten a lot smarter. Yeah. Whenever you see a guy arrested for doing that, he always looks like the guy who used to carry the ladder and get up in the tree. So life has become slightly more physically simple for those people. But here's the thing. So obviously the big problem with this film is it reads like so I forget who said it. It looks like an Oberlin senior thesis project. Like it looks like a college feminist like project on like here's how men are, here's how we need to fix it. So and they're going to feel enlightened because instead of saying like men are bad, we're going to say, oh, look how awesome you can be by stepping in and stopping this horrible male behavior. But it's done by such a cold corporate $200 billion razor company that no one would even believe there's anything earnest behind it whatsoever. So you're not, even if you're like are putting out feminist propaganda or you're creating a film, let's say a film like Jodie Foster being raped like in the back of a bar by all these guys, the accused, at least that's going to change some hearts and minds because people go like, oh man, this film really touched me and that's really horrible what guys do. Mm-hmm. But this film has no chance of actually having a social change among the people who are viewing. It's the intended audience because it's being put out by Gillette in such a cynical fashion, and because the cliches in the video are so fucking horribly idiotic that there's no way it could possibly change the culture. The guys who are actually sort of like on the line of being kind of rapey would actually change from seeing this. So it's just a fucking corporate ad,
right? And if Gillette, they would support like a pro-rape agenda if they sold like 10 more razors, by the way. I mean, that's the whole point of capitalism. And it rang hollow because, during when they were showing all the bad men and the boys learning how to not be bad, all of them were clean shaven to a very distracting degree. Like they had like these chalkboard faces, and that's not an accident. They're still like, look, our razors work really well. You know, we're still, even though they're still trying to sell razors and push their brand while doing this, which is obviously the whole point in the first place. But I think that should be acknowledged that they still cast a bunch of guys with weird faces that had shaved too close.
My next idea was that Monsanto would do like a short film about white cops killing black people. And they would call it Cop Killer, but then they would translate it to Weed Killer for the Roundup. Like they just like, well, Monsanto we're really big on all these racial stops, police stops, and harassment of black people. So we're making short films about it now. You can read all about it on the back of our Roundup Weed Killer. Like, who does a white cop shoot the black guy in this film? We got to get some Roundup and check the back of it to see what happens.
Yeah, maybe Clorox for like don't whitewash history.
Yes. It's so idiotic. And so what happened is all these companies, and I don't know why they've done this, have all hired these huge diversity teams. They've hired they all have chief diversity officers now, also inclusive officers and all this stuff. And they've given them, unlike the past when they made token stuff, they give them a lot of money now. And so they work with these ad agencies. They're always in Portland. The ad agency is always in Portland for some reason. And they come up with this crap. And I think the guys who run the actual business just go like, as long as it doesn't fuck with our business, go ahead. And they just sort of wait for it to pass. That's how I feel. Like they're in the office going like, ooh, that was bad. But people forget about it. They'll forget about it in a week.
Yeah.
Like the guys who actually are on the bottom line for selling razors are just thinking like, God, okay, it's coming out. I'm just going to take a vacation this week and wait right at the best men can be ad spots.
Yeah, I don't know when this ridiculous with this thing with the ad agencies and all this started. It's not like in the 70s Gillette was running commercials where a guy was shaving and then his wife came in and was like, you burned the pork chop, and then he punched her and went back to shaving. Like, since when did they even have a stance until it became like obnoxiously prescient to do so?
No, and I looked. So the Gillette ad, "The best men can be the best a man can get." Excuse me. Their slogan came out in 1989 in the Super Bowl. So that was 30 years ago in the Super Bowl. That's when they first introduced that slogan, and they had these commercials. And I don't know if you remember them, but it was like the little song, "The best a man can get," and it had showed guys like shaving, and then it showed guys like being caring, like holding their babies and things like that. But then it also showed them being astronauts, cowboys, police officers, and athletes, whatever else it was. So it actually managed to be, it was a very successful ad. They sold a shit ton after that, and they've used that slogan for 30 years because it showed that guys are both sensitive, can take care of their baby, can hold their babies in their arms and look at them lovingly, and also be astronauts and be cool as astronauts. And I think guys really, really relate to that, which is like, yeah, I can be sweet at home and then go to the moon. And that seemed to be like the appropriate male like brand message to men, which is that you don't have to ditch your children and your family and punch people in bars. You can just be a cool ass astronaut or cowboy, but then also take care of your wife and kids. Yeah, and that seemed to resonate. That was like the middle ground. It seemed to resonate.
Now it's like, because you're a man, you're clearly a fucking moron, and you don't understand basic things of how society has always operated, at least in modern history, such as physical assault, not good, and sexual assault, not condoned, not legal,
nope,
not moral, and
all those numbers, by the way, are coming down dramatically. So they're actually, so 50 years ago, maybe you say, maybe this ad runs 50 years ago when men are more abusive to women without consequence. But now, even like the numbers of guys who are doing this kind of shit has to be much smaller than it was 50 years ago. So now you have a time when actually men are naturally evolving to be less violent. In fact, the very reason we have football is because guys used to before sports, guys used to just beat the crap out of each other. That's why they literally invented football, the NFL, professional football, so the laborers, the workers at the factories wouldn't beat each other up on Sundays.
And if you watch Cops or any show like that, ironically enough, guys who are still beating their wives, they all have beards. They don't shave.
No, they don't.
They are not clean shaven.
No, they're not. They're not the best men.
They have the white trashy long goatee mustache, and
is every cop's. And every cop's, and they also all live in Florida.
Yeah, and they're going to the 99-cent store for razors. So you're not reaching any of this market of wife beaters.
And the cops will approach their house really quietly, even though you can hear all the yelling. Even though you can hear all the yelling inside. I don't. So there was a couple years ago they had the ad with Amy Schumer and Seth Rogen talking about the gender pay gap for Bud Light, and the campaign failed so miserably they pulled it well ahead of time. Audi ran this thing about like teach your daughters to be. Hopefully your daughters will grow up in a world where they'll have gender equality. This is while Audi was like in the process of screwing over every woman who bought their car because they faked all their emission standards and had the biggest lawsuit settlement ever in the history of mankind. So, the idea of these corporations, whatever, they're not necessarily evil, but these are very flawed institutions, are going to be the arbiters of morality. I'd rather have this come from like a Vassar, feminist project. At least you can understand where it came from and why they're doing it.
Yeah.
This is so fucking.
Who's Gillette's parent company?
A Procter and Gamble.
Oh, okay. So they've never been charged by the EPA with dumping dumping chemical waste into a
Gillette
stream or anything.
No, their biggest. All their lawsuits are about their price fixing and the markup they have because they have just shown. I think in Europe, in the EU, where they have much more control over the companies, they have been investigated constantly for their price fixing and for the fact that they are charging so much markup on their product. In the U.S., it's basically legal to do that.
Well, what else does Procter and Gamble make? I thought they made like.
They make all the household
beauty
products. No, they make Clorox, like you talked about. They make all the household products, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
No, I mean, they're all...
The companies committed gross environmental crimes.
Well, so I go back to like, at least in the old days, so I'm older than you, like Coca-Cola would do all these like, I like to buy the world of Coke happy songs about all the countries that they were moving into to give childhood diabetes to everybody. So the spread of Coca-Cola, forget Clorox, which is blatantly dangerous, but the spread of Coca-Cola has like brought like childhood obesity and diabetes to like regions formerly that were completely healthy regions. Mm-hmm. So Coca-Cola has actually killed probably a lot more people than Clorox has. But at least their ads were really happy. At least their ads were like, I like to buy the world of Coke and teach the world to sing or whatever the fuck it was, or have a Coke and a smile. All the McDonald's commercials, speaking of obesity, they were always happy, very happy, feel-good commercials. Like, eat here, you're wonderful, world is wonderful, we're all at peace, share something with friends. They're all very positive messages. And so while they were killing people, at least they were like...
Didn't they invent Fanta during the Holocaust so they could sell Coke under a different name to the Nazis?
Oh, that's quite possible. I'll buy into that conspiracy.
I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's a documented fact.
It's quite possible. All I know is I always read these stories about how Coke, like, when the day they moved into like these more remote villages around or cities around the world, and then they go back like 20 years later, and the diabetes rate is like 10,000% higher than it used to be. Yeah. So, but again, at least they pretended like they're selling with a smile, like feel good about this product. Now with Gillette, I just want to fucking take a razor and kill myself. Matt, you're a huge Mariah Carey fan, I think, from back in the day. You have nicknames for her. I don't know. Somehow all the female singers have nicknames, like adorable nicknames that their fans call them. And it's just, I don't know how their male fans put up with
What's Mariah Carey's nickname?
I don't like Sweet Pipes or some shit like that. And, the Lady Gaga, Beyonce is Bay. They have all like these, like, in the Bay Hive. Got to join the Bay Hive. Really buzzing today. Like, it seems like something that allows like 32-year-old women to act like they're 12. To use like when's the last time you used like sweet, adorable, funny nicknames? I mean, if you're a guy and you have friends, you call them fucking dumbass. There's no like, I mean, would you still call like a guy like the fucking Squeaky or something you did when you were kids? I don't know. Like,
no, I do try and come up with nicknames for men that I know, but I try and make them sound cool as opposed to
cool, leaning derogatory. Like, usually,
yeah, depending on who. Well, like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he's a player on the Clippers.
Yeah,
I think his nickname should be Shea Butter.
Yes. Wow, you're worse than Mariah Carey.
Was then considered racist, but
because you want to rub him all over your body. You want to rub him all over your body.
No, because he's butter.
He's smooth.
He's smooth like butter.
I'm clearly talking to the wrong person with this intro.
No, it's weird.
Any other cute nicknames you have for male athletes?
It's a little Arrested Development.
Tom Brady Bunch. You want to live in his
Tom Brady Bunch.
You want to live in his house? I go with the dickhead, dumbass, occasionally fuck up, things like that.
I nicknamed my friend growing up Rat because he looked like a rat.
Yeah, but he probably still doesn't go by Rat, I'm guessing.
No, but people call him that.
Do
Still.
they really? That's tough. I always remember that Seinfeld episode where George wanted to invent himself a really cool nickname because people around the office were calling him like a very derogatory nickname. So he decided, the nickname, you could change your nickname just by pretending that people call you something else.
Yeah.
And so he came up with like a really cool nickname.
T-Bone.
Yeah, right. Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone just refused to use it. Everyone calls me T-Bone now. Like, I guess that's my nickname. Like,
I had this teacher in junior high school, and he was such a dork, but it was a Catholic school. He was a Orthodox Jew teacher.
Of course.
I don't know how that works.
Everything about Alaska is northern exposure.
Yeah, well, it's cool that way, but he was a very sensitive guy, and we fucked with him a lot. But in an effort to be nice, I gave him a cool nickname, Crazy K. His name was Mr. Kurtzbard, so I call him Crazy K. And he cornered me and said, man, I was wondering, that nickname Crazy K, I'm not really, do you think I'm crazy? Because I don't. And so then I said, all right, I'll do something about this. So I go, look, everyone, we now are going to call him, instead of Crazy K, Special K. So he took both literally. So then I just say, no, we don't think you're special. But, he likes Special K.
Isn't Special K jargon for a drug?
It's before that. It was just a cereal. I don't know the point of that story.
So Mariah Carey is suing her. So I don't know the crazy part. She's suing her a personal assistant. She goes through a lot of personal assistants. Mariah Carey's, of all the divas in the world, Mariah Carey's always had the reputation for being the most grossly exaggerated diva. She's always been stories about how, like, her assistants have to carry around her own toilet paper when they travel, her own special water. She demands certain things. When she got really fat, they had to, like, walk her but pretend they weren't walking her around places.
What's the difference between being a diva and a raging cunt, like a bad person? Like,
yeah.
If a guy is a diva, isn't he just considered a domineering asshole?
I think it's a difference between being a ladies' man, like a guy would be a ladies' man, versus just like a rapey dude. I think the diva is what you get away with if you're a woman, especially a woman of color, and you get to like be. They call them like a queen mentality, like the Nubian queen type thing, where you get to act like you're in charge and you make everybody serve you, and somehow that's seen as I could understand the basis of that. That's seen as like you're super cool because you can sort of be the queen and insist upon very specific things and make your menial staff work on your behalf.
We'll see how that works for you. I remember doing catering one time, and Barbara Streisand needed some tea before she went.
It sounds like you're setting up a joke, but I know this really happened.
It did. And I said, I'll get the tea. And I had no plans on getting that tea.
Wow.
Because they were like, there's so many. What are they going to say? It was that guy? I'm just like one of the 20 people working there.
Yeah, plus you can get fired from a catering job and get a catering job the next morning.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, like, it doesn't always work out. Some people see what
was
you're
that
doing.
Was that your truth to power moment, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
That's you really high-fived everybody afterwards.
Yeah, I like to think that she thinks about it to this day.
She really has. You were the Gillette, the best man can be short film for Barbara Streisand. You changed your mind by not bringing her tea.
It's like when you order something at a restaurant and the guy walks away and you're like, oh, he's not going to get that right. I think for a moment she knew, like, this guy has no intention of like doing anything I want. But it was too late. I was gone.
I don't think it affects people like you think it affects them.
I'm sure.
Also, I think I just assume all rich people, super rich people, are just sort of very needy and make a lot of demands because fuck, you can. I mean, that's sort of human nature. When you can get away with being abusive, people are normally abusive. So I assume that most like people worth $300 million or $400 million that travel in private jets and hotels and stuff are pretty demanding of their help in general. But the diva status, I think, when you start talking about what you're wiping your ass with, having the Evian baths, all that kind of crap, needing like the fucking M&M sorter, the jelly bean sorter, all those stories, that's where it gets into like personal trifling of like just being super obnoxious about it. I mean, yeah, if you're rich, you want what you want when you want it. But asking people to do sort of crazy shit, that's where you become a diva.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you're kind of that person. There's plenty of rich people that, don't really care. I mean, they're going to be particular about certain things, but just because she would have been an annoying person anyway.
Oh, she
would have been
fucking
driving some guy insane in a trailer home.
Well, yes, although in her later day story, she talked about how Tommy Mottola was very controlling Also, don't forget she's bipolar and had gastric bypass surgery.
Oh my God.
So here's the story. So she fired her personal assistant, this woman named Liana Azarian. Liana Azarian is suing her. This is how the story goes. Is suing Mariah Carey because she claims Mariah Carey's manager, I forget her name. She's sort of famous because she was on Mariah Carey's TV show. Used to like abuse her tits, like for her own personal sport and fun. When she was this woman Leanna was her personal assistant. Mariah didn't do it to her, but Mariah's manager would make her like put her phone underneath her tits, always comment about her breasts, like making her do weird things with her breasts. Which
the manager is abusing the assistant.
Yeah, not in a sexual way, but more in just a dominating, like sort of humiliating way. And by the way, I was forced to watch like 2 or 3 episodes of the Mariah Carey reality show of a couple years ago with the manager in it and this personal assistant in it. And none of this was in it, and this would have been such a better show. Like just making her hold the cell phones underneath her tits would have been the best moment of the entire show.
That does sound oddly demeaning, I guess, just because it's like if you're sexually harassing someone and it's like, he was grabbing my butt and it's like, well, that's not cool. But this is clearly just a frivolous fuck around type of thing. Like it's like you're playing with a cat or something.
Yeah, it's like the swimming with shark, Kevin Spacey swimming with sharks. It's just being abusive to your assistant because you get off on it.
Right.
But again, uncorroborated. So she was fired. She's suing. Amazing part of the story is she was making $327,000 a year as Mariah Carey's personal assistant, her executive assistant.
I'd let someone pinch my nipples for
yes.
$327K.
I tell you what. By the way, I was thinking like, how much money would it take for you to make out with Jeff Bezos? Because I assume the next woman's going to get like $10 billion. That woman, that Bezos had no prenup, right? Yeah. So this woman, his wife, seems like a decent enough woman, and they're getting divorced after 25 years. So she obviously was with him before he had the big money. She's going to get a huge chunk of that. But now he's dating this other married woman who's leaving her husband. They're going to get together, and they're all talking about like how gross they were seen making out in public, and was like, "Oh, that's so gross." I'm like, I don't know, for $1 billion, I'd probably make out with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I don't attach a whole lot of importance to making out. I would make out with him. I don't think I'd touch his dick though.
Really, for $1 billion?
Yeah, I'd touch it.
Yeah.
But I thought that his wife helped him start
Mackenzie
Amazon.
Well, whatever she did or didn't do, she's gonna get half. She's gonna get half. So of the
right, but she wouldn't deserve half if she was sitting around at home all day. I'm just kind of thinking she's getting.
She's going to get a massive. The bigger problem is the stock because she's going to own half of his stock, and so she might have.
But what if she deserves it? Is what I'm saying.
Oh, she may very well do. I'm just talking about for the actual stock itself. It's very unnerving to people when suddenly there's a brand new majority owner, brand new sizable owner of the entire stock of the company.
Right.
Because she could be fucking. I mean, Bezos is what he is. Everyone knows what he is. She could be insane and just make sort of all these radical decisions with her equity in the company. So that's going to be an issue. But I assume he's just going to buy her out of that with some huge, massive, multi-billion-dollar part of the settlement. But back to Mariah Carey and the breast humiliation. So this woman was fired. Then she claims that she was harassed. So now she's suing for multiple millions of dollars, Mariah Carey and Mariah Carey Enterprises. And Mariah Carey's team shot back with the fact that the reason she was fired was because she was tape recording Mariah Carey in intimate moments. I assume that means, I don't know, taking a shit, having sex, intimate, embarrassing moments.
Is taking a shit intimate?
Well, if someone was filming you taking a shit, you probably feel that way, especially if you're famous. Amy Schumer would show off her poop, but Mariah Carey, I assume, is when she takes off all the makeup and the dresses and stuff. I assume she's just a disgusting looking, horrible blob of a person.
She's sizably overweight.
Well, she lost weight since the gastric bypass, but I'm guessing like, if you're that much made up and girdle restrained and so forth, you don't really want shots of you just in the bathroom, like going public. That would probably be really embarrassing.
Well, you don't ever want photos of you taken that you don't know the photos being taken.
Of course, but I'm saying especially so. It's not like Geraldo with his 65-year-old bath towel placed around his groin. He's like all buffed and super ripped and tanned, and he pretends like, how'd this photo get out? Like,
right.
Hers would be like saggy ass, grossness. Also, so I'm saying,
why is she? I mean, I get what you're saying, but why is she like naked or like, blowing AC Slater and in front of her assistant.
I think it to be AC Slater.
I don't know.
Is that who she's blowing? So she was married to Nick Cannon. And speaking of horrible things in her life, she is personally responsible for making having Nick Cannon have an adult career in television.
Right.
Like Nick Cannon was a child star, a young adult star, and had he not married Mariah Carey, would have ended right there. And now he's on 7 TV shows because of Mariah Carey, including your favorite show, The Masked Singer, which he hosts. So she claims that this woman was blackmailing her to release these intimate, I assume, sex and or nude grossness videos to the world if she didn't pay her all this money, and they're going back and forth. And here was my actual question. And don't forget, Mariah Carey also has the AIDS-ridden hooker sister.
Oh yeah,
who she won't give money to anymore as she slowly dies. And by the way, I'm with Mariah in that part.
Me too.
Because you're not responsible for especially your half fucked up siblings when they start fucking visiting motels with AIDS and going down to guys for cash.
Yeah,
that's where you got to end it. She needed that life-saving AIDS surgery, whatever the hell that is.
For me, it's I don't really loan people money, but if it's one time they don't pay me back, there will not be a second time. And unfortunately for Mariah, I'm sure it was a constant leeching.
Oh, well, and also the context, which is that her sister is an AIDS drug addict prostitute. So it's not like she's like starting up a charity or a business and she needs your support.
I might just do like how they do with the homeless people in Hawaii. Is like, where do you want to go? Like, I'll give you a one-way ticket.
Is that what they do, really?
Oh, yeah.
Is that why they're all in Los Angeles?
Partly.
They're dumping all the homeless in Los Angeles. It's really, really fucking shady. Not just from other parts of California, but other states are sending their transients out to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I would do if I ran a small town in Nebraska and had meth heads.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. I mean, when you ask people where they want to go, especially when they're all tweaked out, they're like, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Be the next big thing.
Good drugs. If I ran a small town in Nebraska and I was like the sheriff or the mayor, and there was like, some percent of the kids were just on fucking meth and just causing all the crime, I'd buy them a fucking bus ticket to Los Angeles too.
That's what happened.
You can't stop them. So here's my question about Mariah Carey. Are trashy people just trashy, Matt? Is it like there's no way around? Once you grow up trashy, are you forever trashy? Mariah Carey grew up really trashy.
Yeah, I think there's a culture of trashiness. I'm sure her assistant is trashy. I think that I know that I don't have the same demand for nude sex tapes as Mariah Carey.
Yes.
But I know that I know that if someone was recording me having sex, I would be aware of it. I don't think I would be having sex in front of someone that was just chilling on a Barca lounger that worked for me.
I think she suggested it was secretly taping her, like without her consent or knowledge.
I wouldn't if someone was weird enough to be secretly recording and setting up hidden cameras, I would detect that in them much long before it actually transpired. This is all part of the trashiness. They just attract each other. It's a revolving circle.
That's what I think. I think the trashy people like these. It's same with like the Gillette guys. Those guys who actually are like kind of rapey attract each other, and they're in these little rapey circles of guys who just are fucking horrible dudes, and you're never going to speak to them no matter what. It's the same with these trashy women. They're just in these groups of like. I assume they all have VH1 TV shows, and they're all basketball wives. They're just these trashy people, and they don't realize what they're doing, or like they went radar up like a woman like taping them having sex, because that's just a normal part of like their.
It's just that it's a trashy. I mean, it's the Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, they're trashy people that happen to, make a lot of money singing, and there's a loser version of this too, where people sit around complaining about how they got fucked over and. How they, let's go to. Well, there's only one thing we can do is buy a 40 ounce and some scratchers, and it's and there's a rich guy version of it too, and there's all in between.
I just don't understand how people follow Mariah Carey. Like she had, I guess had doesn't anymore. Before she got too fat and couldn't breathe. She had a really great voice, but she came into the business. Everyone knows the story about Tommy Mottola, and it's just happened to get a record deal from the guy she was having sex with. And married as a young bride, went along, did what she did, but it's like her whole sort of makeup since then is really kind of gross. But it's like, how do you follow? I always compare stuff to guys like adoring athletes, because guys will adore athletes of horrible character. But I don't know. I see women like if you speak ill of Mariah Carey, God knows if you say anything about Lady Gaga online, Beyonce, you will get 10,000 women who are ready to fucking jump the cliff for these women. Like literally give their lives up to these ladies. It's a weird sickness sort of, I guess it's sort of like a religious cult aspect to it, where people used to be like, would kill for their religion. And now they have Mariah Carey or Lady Gaga.
It's a female herd thing. It's the same way that if you don't show a lot of interest in a woman, she's more inclined to be attracted to you.
Yeah.
So these women must know that if they met Mariah Carey, she would treat them like shit.
Yes, of course she would.
and
Unless they pay for the VIP tickets, then she'd have to do the handshake.
And they're into it too, and not Lady Gaga, but Mariah Carey and Beyonce. Both their shticks is that they're kind of like a bitch.
They're better than you.
Yeah, they're arrogant, and they have like some Jesus complex. And if you are attracted to that, and you're like you really admire someone like that, that means you're just an asshole who hasn't made it yet. So I would say it's a red flag.
I think you can judge a person's like success in a very generalized way, their success rate for the future based on who they idolize.
Yes.
Like I always remember like Alex Keaton in the show from the 80s with Michael J. Fox, and his idols were all like these corporate raiders and stuff like that. But at least you knew like that character was a guy who was going to grow up to be like, you know, a big executive. Mm-hmm. Versus someone who like idolizes Mariah Carey. You know, if Mariah Carey is like your hero, you're just not going places.
Or like Eminem, like a trailer dwelling, pill popping, sociopathic, antisocial, ugly.
Yes, I like his music. You can like his music, but if he's like the guy you want to be like, and then even he in his song "Stand" makes fun of people who like that himself that way. Right. Like who would like a trailer trash broken dude like him? He's actually mocking people who actually think he's worth being a hero to.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the way Barkley does the same thing, right? People look up idolize athletes. He's like, you guy, I'm not a role model. How can a fucking basketball player be a role model for you? Like he's sort of mocking the people who would have basketball players as role models.
Yeah.
It's just it's so fucking wrong. I just think once you're trashy, you're fucking, it doesn't have to be white trash or ghetto trash or like that. Once you just sort of grow up with that sort of like bitch fighting, slapping going on all the time, people taking pictures of each other having sex, tit humiliation.
Yeah, it's just a culture. This will not be the last weird thing that happens regarding Mariah Carey. And
no, I still think marrying Nick Cannon was the weirdest. Was just the choice. Like, that was, you know, well after she didn't need Nick Cannon at all. He needed her. And just the idea that someone would look at Nick Cannon and go like, "You're the guy I want to make babies with." Like, I want to make babies with. Matt, let me ask you about butch lesbians. You've dated several. Riley asked in an email, butch lesbian is suing Chili's for suggesting she dress less butch casual.
Her name is Butch Lesbian?
I don't know her real name.
Like Christian Mingle?
I'm calling her Butch Lesbian. The best part is, so if you read the stories about the story, this is about a lesbian who's let's call her Butch because she shaves her head shaved and she dresses like a man.
She would call herself Butch. She seems proudly Butch.
Yes, she's got the tit restraint thing on. She's like dressing like a man. She's like, you know. And I told you before we went on the air.
Like Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, I feel she looks like Gordon Ramsay. I feel bad for butch lesbians who have big breasts because it's just a lot more work. It's just a lot more work.
Yeah, and don't they know a lot of biker Harley guys have big tits themselves?
Oh yeah, that's great.
Like,
yeah,
you don't have to. What do you tape them down?
Well, they want to make sure that they're, even though people know they're a lesbian, they want to make sure they're seen present themselves as a male. And so, I mean, I imagine, and she's slender, but she still has big breasts. And I imagine that's just a lot more work because you got to fucking wrap your tits up every day in some sort of restraint so that you're not you can't jiggle. If you're a butch lesbian, you can't jiggle, right?
I guess not.
I mean, that would look female. So you have to shave your head and then fucking tie, I assume ace bandages around your breast or something every morning.
You got to question why at that point. Why can't you be a butch chick with a shaved head? And
if you were going to be if you were trying to pass, or you felt you were a guy but you felt like a woman, you'd probably shave your arms and legs. You probably wouldn't go out there with hairy hairy appendages.
Well, I don't think she's a transsexual. I mean,
No, but she's trying to she's mimicking the superficial looks of a man. So she's dressing like a man. She's got her head shaved like an army ranger, and she clearly doesn't want to have like an ass or tits showing off. By the way, have you?
She has a kid, by the way.
Yes. Have you seen Serena Williams lately? I 2 a.m. I'm watching the Australian Open, as I want to do live, because I can't stand tennis. But if you can't sleep at 2 a.m, there's live sports on from Australia, and Serena Williams is fucking enormous. However big you thought she was before, she has added, and it's not muscle. She's added 30 pounds of fat in her legs and ass. So she is turning into like a cliche, what I would call a cliche like heavyset black woman. Mm-hmm. Her ass is fucking enormous, and you don't grow. There's no muscle in your ass. You don't grow muscle in your. There's no like you don't work out. I mean, you can make your muscle. You can make your ass tighter. You can't make your ass enormous by like doing weights. So it's fat, and their legs are fat now too. They're starting to show like signs of the cellulite and all stuff like that. She looks like a cliche, like heavy set, like she has all the muscle still. She still has all the muscle mass, but she's added like a ton of weight. So she's looking like an NFL lineman now.
Is she still moving around pretty well?
Yeah, she still moves around great, but she's still dominating. But she looks like almost an Ndamukong Suh or like a defensive lineman where they're really strong and really muscular, but they also have 40 extra pounds of weight on them. So like a belly and ass, like
which wouldn't be that big of a deal, but she's still wearing these sort of cartoonishly effeminate. I mean, the skirt.
This time she's wearing. In Australia, the French Open makes them wear that, but she's wearing a onesie, like a singlet kind of thing. Like it's like a shorts, like bike shorts that go into a top. It's all one piece. But it's just, I'm going to send you a picture after this, because I was like, when I saw it, and I'm always like, oh, Serena Williams is playing. I'm always expecting to see like the muscles and the enormous girl. I was like, I fucking screamed. It was just like so shocking to me how fat she's, like how just her ass is just enormous.
And every other, competitive tennis player, female tennis player is a twig.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She's just this one outlier. So in the perspective, she's at the top of the screen, other woman on the bottom. And she's 3 times the size of the other person.
She's got to weigh twice as much as her. She's playing this Eugenie Bouchard or whatever. I don't know if she's Canadian or French, Belgium or something. I can't remember. But she's like a normal lady, like 120 pounds, 110, 120 pounds, like a female athlete. And Serena's got to be pushing well over 200. I mean, it was like, it's just like her body, I mean, her ass. I was like, and she's in fucking bike shorts. She's in spandex lime green bike shorts. And her ass is just like, it looks like a Kardashian ass. It's just like.
I can't think of another competitive sport, a one-on-one sport, where one person could be so much larger than the other. I mean, It would be like Brock Lesnar fighting
or Brock Lesnar,
Corey Feldman.
Or Brock Lesnar playing tennis. It's just, you don't imagine like a tennis player having like a defensive lineman's body. It's like, it was hard to watch. It was like amazing to watch how strong she is, because she was moving really fast. It was like fucking the combines, and she's like an Alabama, like Quinton Williams. She's like a 290 Alabama defensive lineman doing the combine skills, like, and they're like amazingly fast for their size. It's just like it was like horrendous to watch. Her ass was fucking like it was Black China. She looked like a larger version of Black China, like exaggerated ass.
Well, it can be exciting. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of tennis, obviously, but this new guy on Duke, Zion Williamson, the whole thing is he's just this really huge man.
Yeah, the new LeBron.
Or even LeBron. He's just this big guy. But in that sport, it's advantageous to be large and
sure
and big. But in tennis, is it? I don't know that it's necessary to have giant delts.
No, but also I don't think she's put on, since the baby, I guess, when she almost died 7 times during childbirth. I don't think she's put on more muscle mass. I think she's put on a lot more fat. She's got kind of fat mom body now, and it's all in her ass and her upper legs, and it is fucking. I mean, it was like watching Kim Kardashian playing tennis, like the big tits, the enormous fucking exaggerated ass, and huge legs, and yet she's still obviously stronger than everybody else on the court. It's becoming like a cartoonish. It's just becoming like a cartoon of like, how the fuck is she like running back and forth, and just like, how are these other women, forget the racial aspect of it, how are these other women who are half her size going like, oh, I can beat her? Like it's like, if she was huge, like and she couldn't move. You think about like a flyweight taking on a heavyweight,
Yeah.
and the flyweight would dance around him, and the heavyweight probably couldn't hit him. But in tennis, there's no physical contact, so you just try and hit the ball as hard as you
That's
can.
why I think that her physique, her new enormous, size and girth and agility is wasted on something as lame as tennis. I mean, she can still play tennis, but she should be getting into MMA, softball.
But she probably weighs like
roller
60
hockey.
pounds more than Ronda Rousey. I mean, she would have to. There's no one who would take her on. Can't think of a female athlete who, outside of like what was his name, Steve Adams' sister, who did the shot put. She's getting to be that size. She's going to be shot put. She's going to be shot put lady size, Olympic shot put lady size. It's just, oh man. Oh, back to the Butch.
So you're saying we should stop pretending she's the most attractive woman in the world?
Well, so McEnroe, one of the McEnroe brothers, I can't remember, and someone else are doing the Chris Everett or someone doing the announcing for the match, and they just don't even make mention of it. Like, how could you not make mention? They're like, oh, she had a nice backhand there, like from her enormous fucking like. Have you ever seen a large woman move this? The first thing I would say as a commentator is like, have you ever seen a 200-pound woman move this fast?
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing that would come to my mind. Like, she is like...
Nothing weird about saying that. You say that about a football player
Yes.
or a basketball player.
Yes. I would say, isn't it amazing that with that fucking enormous ass, she could still run the court faster than girls half her size? That's the first...
You would be fired.
Yes, I would. So back to Butch Lesbian. So she works at Chili's. This is in Phoenix, which is a great, great redneck town. Like the largest redneck town in the world.
Yeah.
Like 1 million rednecks, just a million rednecks. She works at Chili's. She's a waitress, a Butch Lesbian waitress. The Chili's team, Chili's is one of those like, I forgot what they call it, Chiliizers. They call their staff some name like Chili Saucers or some shit like that.
Chili dogs.
Yeah, it's a horrible, horrible environment when they have nicknames for their staff that plays off their brand name.
Oh, that's just after every shift, you're just going home and drinking. Like, I can't believe I'm subjecting myself to
Do you
this.
know what Hulu calls their employees?
Hulu?
Hooligans.
Oh.
Yes. Like.
Hooligans are bad, right?
Yeah, I thought hooligans were bad, but it just to play off their independence and fresh spirit, looking at the world through different lenses or some shit like that. And they're all like hooligans, meaning hooligans in the meeting. Like, I would just quit that. I would quit that company right away.
Yeah.
But I think they call them, and then the corporate guys who are like 60-year-old guys have to use the nickname when they're referring to people. Like, we value all our chili saucers or whatever. Like,
Can you still work there and just say, look, I get what you're trying to do. I'm not participating. I don't want to lose my job, but like, I'm out on this.
Yeah.
Or is that the whole point, is to make you do it?
I think it's a cult. I think it's like a cult, franchise cult type thing.
Okay.
I'm always recalling Jennifer Aniston in Office Space, and the guy's telling her more flair.
Yeah.
And she's like, I have the 15 pieces. He goes, well, that's the minimum. That's the minimum. And she finally quit. So this woman, Butch Lesbian, is a waitress for 3 years. Chili taps her to be to interview for the assistant managers program, the night manager or swing shift manager program, where they take their wait staff. That's obviously the dedicated wait staff, and they're going to turn them into managers because they always try to hire within, which I completely respect because there aren't many companies left in this world, in this country, where you can actually work your way up the chain of the company. And this is like, if you work at, from being waiting, most people there are very transient waiters. But this actually might take a young woman or young person, made him be a busboy, then a waiter, then a manager, then a assistant, whatever manager, then a general manager, and eventually they're making a nice income and they have a good job. And I actually kind of admire those apprenticeship type companies, and they have God knows how many outlets, so you're likely never to be fired, and you can actually have a nice. There aren't many working class, middle class jobs anymore. You can have forever.
Yeah,
This
there
seems
are a
like
lot of Chili's. Is it like the Catholic Church where you can rape someone in a Chili's and they'll just move you over to the Scottsdale location?
I don't know if that's in their mission statement. I'll have to take a look if that's in their sliders for four sliders for $8 deal. So she gets tapped for this program. She goes to the interview, which I assume was with the corporate guys, not like her people at her local Chili's, and she's dressed like a dude because she dresses like a dude and. They come away. She claims so. She immediately hires. She doesn't get the job, the managerial job. She isn't fired, but she doesn't get the managerial gig. And she claims that the people who interviewed her told her that she was dressed gender inappropriately, meaning she was dressed like a dude. And her whole point was yes, I dressed exactly like the men get to dress for these interviews. She wore a button-down shirt and slacks, and claims that that's how guys get to dress, and that's how I'm comfortable dressing. So therefore, just because I'm a woman, I should not be judged as being dressed inappropriately for dressing like the men are able to dress.
I agree with her on that.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay, so she isn't fired. She just doesn't get the managerial job. She immediately quits because she said she can no longer work at Chili's because of the humiliation she suffered, and she hires the ACLU to sue. It brings up the ACLU to sue Chili's for gender discrimination. Well, here's the point. Chili's, by the way, says they didn't tell her that she wasn't dressed inappropriately for her gender. They said she was dressed too casually. I sent you the picture. You can see she's wearing a short sleeve.
There's zero chance that Chili's has not covered their bases on this already. When they have their guidelines and
of course,
how to dress book, I guarantee you it does not say a woman can't wear pants and a shirt.
No.
There's no way that that's accurate.
No, and I assume this is how she dressed when she was a waitress. This is how she dresses every day of her life. I assume there's like a Chili's have to wear the dress code is like black pants and like blue shirt or whatever the hell it is, the Chili's shirt. But I assume she wore the male version of the Chili's outfit. It may actually be they both have black slacks and blue collared shirt or whatever it is. But here's the bigger point. Here's what Riley wants to know in the email. Let's say they did tell her she couldn't dress like that and that she was, sort of off-putting to people because she's a woman. And she clearly is a woman, despite the fact she has her head shaved and she dresses like a man, and they want her to dress in a different way than dressing like a dude. Shouldn't a business have a right to say? I mean, are we taking away the right of a business to tell their employees how they can or can't dress? Obviously, it has to be the same for everybody in some general description. But like, so my kids go to school and they. One goes to Catholic school and they have an event. They'll say like, girls should wear this, boys should wear this to the event, right? It's like a mass. Boys need to wear collared shirts and slacks. Girls they allow them to wear slacks nowadays in 2019, but they have to wear something else, and they would not let a girl dressed in boys' clothing go to the service. Is that like now not legal if you run a business to tell your wait staff and manager staff, especially in a service business, how you want them to dress?
I don't think it happens. I think there's a certain standard of appearance. I mean, I've worked in restaurants and the manager was not a butch woman, but not especially. She's an attractive, normal woman, and she had big tits, and she would wear a tucked-in shirt and slacks, essentially the same clothes that I would wear, except tighter. And no one said, you have to wear a bra, but
of course not. Of course not. You want to say
it's not like, okay, so men have to wear this and women should wear this. And if a woman doesn't want to dress like the woman, that doesn't mean she can come in a fucking clown outfit. I mean, I just don't think, I think there should be standards of presentation, which I'm sure there are. You have to have it ironed. It has to be clean and buttoned to a certain level and all that. I guarantee if she was just doing what the men were doing, I don't think
she has to button her shirt all the way to the top like a lesbian. That's mandatory. I don't know. I mean, let's say it's exactly as she says. Let's say that everything she's saying is true and Chili's is not telling the truth, and that they want female employees to dress differently than their male employees. Not anything showy or exaggerated or sexualized, but just to not dress exactly like the men dress.
Yeah.
So let's say you ran an office and you had like an ad agency and you were doing presentations with clients and you didn't want your female employees dressing in men's suits with ties and looking exactly like the men. Shouldn't you be allowed to do that?
I don't think so. Not in this day and age.
No, I mean, you're saying what's based on the law, but realistically, isn't that telling the business a little too much about like how they can and can't set a dress code for people?
I mean, I get what you're saying in that there should be a line there somewhere. I think this should fall within acceptable. I mean, restaurants, and I'm sure we'll see this, but they've gotten a lot of pass on this, and I don't know what the precedent is. I guess it's because they have a brand, but obviously some trans person has applied to Chili's, right? I'm sorry, to Hooters. And I know obese women have, and
dudes too,
and they say, well, we're not hiring right now, and then if smoking hot shit comes in 5 minutes after, it turns out they are hiring, but
of course,
but we're not going to see anytime soon a fat hairy guy as a Hooters waitress wearing the short shorts and the tank top, are we?
I really hope not. I mean, the point is that they hired this woman knowing she's a lesbian, obviously. And she's out lesbian and butch. And they had her wait, and they invited her to be in the managerial program. So it's not like they discriminated against her. They were giving her opportunities. I think their thing is a really superficial issue. They're not saying we're against lesbians, we're against butch lesbians. We're just like, we want you to dress to appear a certain way. And it turns out that this job, the managerial program, they also do the bartending. The swing shift manager does bartending often. Mm-hmm. And she's saying they want to hire me because they felt I would be off-putting to the guys who go to the bar there.
But she was waiting tables, wearing the same type of clothes.
Yeah, but I think the bars. I think when as she moved up the chain, then maybe they cared, maybe they didn't care, but they just said this to her. They said it. By the way, they said she dressed too casually. They didn't say she dressed too butch. They said she dressed too casually. Was her comment? She was the one who inserted the part about how they said it was gender inappropriate. But if I'm running a bar, don't I want the hot chick in the tank top behind the bar to make myself a lot more money?
Oh, of course. And if you were running a bar and it was your bar, that's exactly what you would do. But you're working for this giant corporation, yes. And your only job is to tote the line and cover your ass. So in that case, you'd probably just have to bite the bullet.
Well, they hired her, and she worked there for 3 years, and by all accounts had a great experience. And they invited her to be as one of their top wage staff to be in the managerial program. So again, it wasn't like they're discriminating against her. They're just saying at this point, if you're going to be the real face of this restaurant, we want you to look a little less butch.
I wouldn't think that would be a good idea. I don't know if you're saying is that wrong?
Well, I would say, do you think a business should be allowed to say that to? And forget the existing laws. Do you think a restaurant or bar should be allowed to say that to their employees?
No, and I don't think a bar should be able to not allow service to black people, for example. I mean,
yeah, well, that's different than a dress code. It's a little different than the race.
I don't think the problem.
I know you have a problem with dress codes because you've not been allowed to wear shorts to your favorite bars.
I would bet that. Yeah, that's true.
So Matt, the best part of the story is this woman who works at Chili's as a waitress claims in her publicity thing put up by the ACLU that she was just about to buy a house for herself and her 9-year-old. Which I guess it's because we're in LA and I'm kind of warped about the whole thing. Maybe in Phoenix the real estate prices are differently. But can you imagine like a waitress of 3 years saying she's about to buy a house, she's about to close on a house in Los Angeles?
That's the American dream, right?
I mean, I don't know what they pay. I don't know how big the tippers are at Chili's on the poo-poo platters. But you can't. I mean, you'd have to own a Chili's in LA before you could probably buy a house or at least a couple Chili's restaurants.
Well, no matter what town you're in, you probably couldn't be a full-time waitress at Chili's and live with a kid and save up enough for a down payment on a house.
I wouldn't think so.
If you started with zero.
I remember doing jobs like that, and I don't remember ever. I remember trying barely to make rent. I don't ever remember having I'm setting aside a down payment on a house. It just seems like a foreign concept. But maybe she got great tips. Maybe people love the tip stuff. The story, as reported, if you read like the major Phoenix paper like that, like woman denied whatever, civil rights, so and so, and then this Arizona Family paper, whatever it's called, the conservative paper, puts out lesbian sues Chili's over discontent lesbian sues Chili's. It was a great mix of headlines based on partisan politics of the actual newspaper. Matt, let me ask you about the NFL. You don't watch football in particular because you're too beta. But football, by the way, I think will be gone. I think in 50 years, football will be gone. I just don't think they're going to get – either they won't get people to play anymore because it's just too dangerous, or like this corporate America will be hounded to the corner of like having the minorities especially just being brain damaged, and they'll have to stop the sport.
I was talking to a ex-football player yesterday, actually, and he played professionally for 10 years, and he said he had 6 concussions. I'm quite sure it was more than that.
Yeah.
And he could understand everything I was saying. He was sharp mentally, but he couldn't barely talk or remember anything, and it was sad. I mean, this is probably a 56-year-old guy, and it was this is clearly a result of football. It was really sad. I mean, he couldn't. It took him 3 times as long to formulate a sentence as it should have.
Yeah, I think, and actually, the interesting part about the CTE stuff and the concussions is that I saw Richard Sherman give a little speech about this. Is that what's happening now is a player, because they've got the targeting and anything to the head, they're overreacting. I guess reacting responsibly, but somewhat overreacting to the head injuries. Is that now guys are taking out other guys' legs? That's the only way to tackle people, because you got to make sure you don't get anywhere near the head. Mm-hmm. And he said there's just a dramatic. He was pointing at a dramatic rise in knee and ankle injuries. And yeah, and so he's saying like, and guys don't, the cornerbacks, like the defensive backs always wanted to go for the upper body, because as brutal as it might look, it actually didn't take guys out of the game. I mean, maybe when they're 56, they couldn't read or write anymore, but they weren't like they weren't missing the whole season because they got hit in the head. So now they're taking out legs and knees, and now you're having all these players going out with like ACLs, torn ligaments, and damaged, fucked up knees, and their careers are ending, or they're not playing for whole seasons because the defenders now have to tackle them, and they still have to tackle them violently to get them down below the waist. So it's sort of a catch-22 here, which is why there may never be a resolution to football that's actually not killing slowly
yeah, I mean,
people.
we can switch everything around and change different rules and everything, but the point of the game is to tackle the other guy and smash into the other guy and gain. I mean, it's by nature, it's a sport where there's 2 sides and they are colliding with each other. So you're never going to stop that.
At high speeds.
Yeah, it's the point of the game.
Yeah, it's like Demolition Derby, which I love. I don't know why ESPN doesn't show that anymore.
We need more of those.
It's so much better than watching Serena Williams with her fat ass.
Those are great. I want to see those back on TV.
ESPN in the early days when they had motorcycles on ice, that was my favorite sport to watch.
I don't remember that.
Motorcycle, when they put these spiked tires on the motorcycles and they race around an ice track.
Sounds awesome.
It was just, they do in the Winter X Games now, I think they have snowmobile racing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same, but motorcycles with spiked tires on ice, that was amazing. I love that shit. So Common, the rapper, says he was interviewed. He says against the NFL, they're asking him always in relationship to Kaepernick. Everything has to be Kaepernick because they don't support black people. Is there? And I did a little research, 1 minute of research, and found that the NFL is the largest employer by salary of black Americans, private company in the country. It's like $3.5 billion. Now, it only goes to a few people. It's not like they're a massive employer of black persons in the country. But the black employees they have make many millions of dollars. And they have enough.
Would stand to reason.
Yes. I mean, it's not really helping the black population in general as an employer, but it is actually, they are the largest, $3.5 billion or so in salary per year.
Second is Def Jam.
Second is I think it's just Jay-Z himself. It's just Jay-Z himself. But it's not like Microsoft is doing that. It's not like anybody else is doing that. And it also seems to me, just as a white guy viewing from the outside, that generally, I always remember was it Jack Camp? He was a politician. Right? He played he was a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills or the Chargers, someone back in the day. He was like a vice president for somebody, I can't remember. He was a Republican guy, but he played football in the 60s. And he always talked about how like the one place where there was no racial tension like in the country was in the NFL locker room. Like that's the only place that he toured around, whatever. The only place where he sensed, or at least sensed, the least amount of racism was on the football field or with the guys in the locker room. That it was the most, people didn't care about race because they were a team. They were playing for, and they wanted to win and everything else. So there might have been a few guys with hang-ups, but basically there was no racism in the locker room. And that always struck me because that seemed to make sense to me. But I've never seen like a gross amount of racism, this as a white guy, in the NFL compared to, say, any other company in the country. Where they're like blatantly, there's always been about like the head coaching jobs, or back in the day when they didn't let black guys become quarterbacks. Although that was not the NFL, by the way. That was like every organization before they got to the NFL was clearly discriminating against black kids from being quarterback all the way back to schoolyard days, through Pop Warner, through high school, through college football.
I wrote an article about that, and nearly everyone called me an idiot and said I was wrong. Although it's inarguable that that's the case.
It was the case, but it wasn't like there were great black college quarterbacks and they just weren't letting them play in the NFL. There were no black college quarterbacks. So the NFL had all white quarterbacks because there was no option then. Now there are many more black quarterbacks in college excelling. You see a lot more black quarterbacks in the NFL.
It's ironic though, because while there are a lot of upstanding black men playing in the NFL, it also, while it might be the highest paid, has like the highest thug hood rat percentage of any sport or organization outside of Def Jam that I can think of.
Well, yeah, and also from my perspective, they have been, if anything, it's clearly a white ownership group and clearly run by white guys. They seem to have covered up for many years and still now, most of the sort of deviant, criminal, and otherwise behavior of their players. It's not like they're looking to hang the black man out to dry in the NFL. They just want to win and make money, right? This is a really meritocracy type situation.
It depends on how much you zoom in or zoom out, I think. I mean, on the one hand, yes, like once you're in the locker room, I'm sure there's very little racism, if any. But on the other hand,
it's the locker rooms are now 75% black.
Yeah.
So,
but
you don't be the white racist guy in that locker room.
No, I'm sure it happens occasionally.
Probably.
But, the owners are mainly, there's a lot of Trump supporters, and those guys are probably not the most progressive guys. And then they're also, to some degree, exploiting this poor black crop of people that, the dude in Silicon Valley is maybe not wanting his kid to be a defensive end. So there's that. And
but that's all. But would you say that's a happenstance of the fact that they are the best athletes? I mean, these thugs from Florida and Alabama and so forth are the best athletes. They're not picking them because they're black and they want to exploit them. If they were Hispanic, if let's say Hispanics or even white rednecks were the best defensive linemen, were 300 pounds and could run a 4.6 40 and jump 36 inches vertical leap, they would probably be the ones in the NFL they were exploiting.
Yeah, but it is kind of a systematic thing. I mean,
it looks bad. It looks bad for sure.
Being entertained by. I mean,
Yes.
there's no actual societal need for football.
No,
we don't.
But there's no need for rap music, and there's billions of dollars being made there. Largely, it's a dominant music genre now. So.
Yeah, but I don't know why it is. I mean, it's probably a history of the way this country is built that we gravitate towards football, which is basically simulated war that was engineered and invented like to get people to recruit dudes to be more into war because the powers that be thought they were becoming soft. And so there is like a whole history behind football, especially, and no other sport I can think of, about like the this semiotics of it.
But they weren't exploiting black people because they didn't allow black people to play. They didn't allow black people to play.
Exactly.
So at some point they were exploiting all white people. I think it's a natural business owner exploitation of their employees that exists in any company, in any business. I don't know that like Common saying the NFL is doesn't support black people. He's talking about, I think obviously he's talking about Colin Kaepernick, and he's talking about the kneeling and the Black Lives Matter thing, which is certainly something to debate. But the fact that they are, that the NFL is itself doesn't support black people seems to me on its face just sort of a ridiculous statement to make, given that it's a largely black enterprise, and not just that, but black guys making a shit ton of money. So
well, it also knows that most of its viewership, because most of the country is white, and it has these egregious displays of patriotism. The NFL's never come out and said we believe in civil rights, and part of that is the right to kneel during the anthem.
No, I'm sure they had one.
I mean, they're constantly gearing this towards a sort of rednecky base.
Do you know any black dudes who don't watch the NFL because they think it's racist? I mean, I don't know that there's ever been. There's always the issue around when they hire the coaches, and there's not enough black coaches in the league, and there's just not enough. And I think this goes into, there may be some racism involved in that, but I don't ever see the NFL pre-Kaepernick. I don't remember the NFL ever being targeted as being a racist organization. No doubt Jerry Joneses of the world don't have a lot of black friends. But in terms of like comparing it to like aerospace or any other industry, by the way, I was reading a story about Portland. The guys in aerospace in Portland up until like the mid 90s were finding like nooses like around the workplace.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's racism in every organization in this country, especially white dominated. I just think the NFL probably is on the lower end of that scale, and so I think this all revolves around Colin Kaepernick and this sort of idolization of Colin Kaepernick as a civil rights leader who's been like treated, like been martyred like a Christ-like figure, been martyred by the NFL because he's clearly being blackballed by the NFL. And they've taken that to mean that he's now this adopted like sort of martyr, this Christ-like figure that the NFL is taking on because he's black.
So if you agree that the NFL is blackballed Kaepernick, which they probably have, I don't really blame them. But so you look at that, and then you look at the NFL. I don't think is supporting black people or not. I think they're taking what's given to them. But the NFL is basically the owners. So if the owners had their way, the players would be making no money and
Sure.
be exploited, and they wouldn't have pension or health coverage. And if you broke your leg, you'd be taken in the back and shot. So then you have the players' union, which is, what a union does. This sticks up for the players, and they're allowed to organize. But if I was a black guy who was sort of socially conscious, such as Richard Sherman, I might say, well, there is a problem here. Robert Kraft owns a team. He's an avowed Trump supporter. Trump traffics in racism. Right there, the NFL is it racist? No, but it's not supporting black people.
But yeah, look at the board. I don't know if you look at the board of Gillette or Procter & Gamble. Maybe I'm sure they have whatever it is, or the Papa John's Pizza or whatever else. They have Trump supporting owners, or the Walmart or whatever else it is. But you don't really. I mean, people don't think of that organization. I mean, I know there's some people that protest them. Don't think of the organization as racist because they also have 140,000 employees. And they sort of look at that level of, are the stores discriminating against people? Are the managers discriminating against people? The ownership group, I assume, of most of corporate America, there's a heavy amount of white, not progressive people. But on the ground, sort of on a daily basis, yeah, the world may be run by white, non-progressive conservatives.
Yeah.
But on the ground, on a daily basis, I don't know that black guys go to work at the NFL and feel they're going to face some sort of racism or oppression or harassment or things like that.
No,
Probably
not
not.
at all. I just think on a macro level, there
For sure.
are a lot of sort of
But
racial
how did Colin Kaepernick? So
implications.
the story came out this week. So people were trying to boycott playing. So now they're boycotting the NFL Super Bowl halftime show. So they try to actually get black performers, and then they all then said they weren't. A lot of them said they weren't going to do it because of Colin Kaepernick and the civil rights thing. So Travis Scott, the rapper, is going to perform along with Maroon 5. Can't wait to see that. But apparently Travis Scott had to go see Colin Kaepernick to get his sort of anointment, like his like going to see the Pope, to get his permission that it was cool for him to do it, even though he's a black guy who's going to play for the NFL. How the fuck did Colin Kaepernick become like the gatekeeper of what is appropriate for black artists or black anybody in relation to the NFL?
Well, he went on record. He started a movement. He took a stand, coincidentally, right around the time his career was over.
Yes. Got himself a fat Nike contract.
And
Banged a lot of models.
grew an afro overnight.
Yes.
Still unsure if those are transplants or what happened.
You still always got to remind yourself that he grew up at a dairy farm in Wisconsin
Yeah, and
with his adopted white parents. Not to hold that against him, but he did grow up in just about the whitest possible environment available in this country.
I have no idea how he's become this symbol. I'm trying to think of like positive, cool black people to be looked up to.
Well, it used to be Jim Brown. Jim Brown for many years was the guy.
He's still alive.
He's still alive, yeah. But I actually saw him in the airport like a year ago. He's hanging. He's
Yeah,
barely.
I saw him in Louisville a few years ago.
Not hanging. He's an older guy now. And by the way, the legs are all fucked up. But he was like always after his career, he was like sort of the Muhammad Ali of the NFL. He was like the black, civil rights leader that had a very legitimate NFL career. And now it's Colin Kaepernick, who is
And a legitimate political
Yes.
career, sort of.
he marched. He marched.
playing.
Yeah, he marched with Dr. King. I mean, he marched in the civil rights movements. He put himself out there. He didn't put himself out there to the extent that Ali did. He didn't go to prison, but I mean, he was.
He didn't go so far as to kneel during the anthem,
No.
and then make a commercial that he got paid for.
I just because I'm a 49er fan, I just remember Colin Kaepernick just being a good, then progressively less good quarterback, and that's just always how I thought of him, as like just another one of those quarterbacks in the NFL, and not as a black civil rights leader. That to me, it's kind of buffoonish that he is now this the guy you have to pass through the gate to get acceptance to do anything with the if you're black to do anything with the NFL. Who knows? Maybe Adam Levine had to go to him too before Maroon 5 signed on. But he doesn't have. It's the old days of like Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton, where you had to go get their approval before you did something. But at least those guys, as corrupt as they may be, had some sort of long history of civil rights preaching. Kaepernick, as far as I know, before he did the kneeling, had none, and that was only 3 years ago. And since then, he's been just having lots of sex with lots of models and doing Nike ads. Not saying he doesn't. Not saying his heart's not in the right place. But how did he get to be the gatekeeper?
Well, I don't know that he has like a sort of mission statement or playbook for this either. I mean, I don't know what he's really gone on record about. We all know that racism is bad and that black people shouldn't be getting shot. Although most NFL fans don't really agree with that.
I don't know, some.
Yeah, sizable enough that the NFL is siding with them.
Philly fans. The NFL, honestly, I mean, I think honestly, the NFL just wants to make money and doesn't want controversy. I don't know that. I mean, there's always, you can look at it either way, that they don't care about black people or that they're inherently racist. At the end of the day, I think every decision these guys make is to make more money. So, which is why, by the way, the NFL is now 70% or 70+% black, because even if they're racist, they still want the best product in the field to make the most amount of money. So they're going to hire all black guys. So,
which again makes it kind of racist, though.
But that's like a catch-22, though.
Have you never met a racist dude, like a straight up racist dude, who says racist shit, and he loves Michael Vick?
Yeah,
he just he couldn't wait to. If Michael Vick was in the room, he would suck his cock. But he doesn't like black people.
And Michael Vick knows that this guy's a racist, but Michael Vick also knows this guy's offering him a $120 million contract.
Yeah.
So Michael Vick doesn't give a shit, because at the end of the day, if you're black in America, you're going to suffer racism no matter what. So why not get $120 million in the process and have yourself a great life?
I agree. I'm just so if there is going to be a new ambassador for the godfather of all blacks, which probably is a bad idea, but it's not Kaepernick. I could see Obama. I could see self-made people like LeBron James.
Yeah, LeBron James,
Jay-Z.
I think, LeBron James is a good example because, he didn't come from much. That's the story of everybody in the NFL, but also, or the sports, but he dominated his sport. He has a long-standing commitment to his civil rights. You know, not that he's quit NBA to go marching or stuff like that, but he's had a consistent dogma throughout his entire career. He's always been outspoken.
Hires black people,
says shit that's unpopular, and doesn't give a shit. And by the way, he's if not the best, one of the best basketball players ever, and everybody has to respect that. He would be the guy, right? That equivalent in the NFL would be the guy. Matt, for our final segment today, I cannot end this show without talking about why you don't like dogs. You've come out with hate. MattRalston.net, you've come out with hate against many things that most people don't really quite understand. Doctors, for instance, Halloween costumes, women who hike, and most other things that people find either innocuous or sort of cute and adorable. But you've really peaked this time with your latest column about how dogs are not people. I think it's dogs are not people, and you really think dogs are just sort of like retarded people that receive way too much affection for what they actually offer back.
Yeah. I think they're entrenching on the sort of human category. Like a lot of people treat their dogs as people. Like we had dogs growing up. They would come in the house sometimes if it was cold, but they would not be allowed on the bed.
Wow.
Because they're filthy.
Yes.
They're disgusting, filthy animals. But people act like, you have the phrase dog mom. Uncommon amount of women are now calling themselves dog moms.
I've never heard that before. I heard cat mom. I never heard dog mom.
Yeah, dog mom is really trending right now.
You don't dig girls who have dogs?
Oh,
Real dogs, I mean, not like shitty little purse dogs, but like actual big dogs.
no, I'd prefer they didn't.
Really?
But it's not a deal breaker, obviously. No, because the dog's always around. I mean, just the amount of microbes that dogs are scattering around a given dwelling is staggering. But
You really think it's worse than the guys you ever to watch football on Sunday?
yeah, but it's a different biome, so
Okay.
it's, it could really affect a lot of things. But I don't care about that. The hair is disgusting. They often shit and piss in the house. I'm assuming your dogs do that from time to time.
No, never once. They're very nice dogs. I'm a dog. I understand the thesis of your point, which is that some people get way too carried away with their relationship with their pets in general.
The point is if you're considering a dog a member of your family
Yes.
and a sort of a person, that is the weirdest, grossest, creepiest person of all time. Because if that's your buddy,
I agree with
hey,
you. I
my
agree with
buddy
you.
Jason.
Yes.
Yeah, he licks his balls in his asshole while we're watching the game.
I thought about that. You're saying if you couldn't do that, you wouldn't do that.
No, but it wouldn't be socially acceptable.
Probably feels good. Well, no,
yeah, I could sit here jerking off if I.
Dogs are not. Well, you could be like Louis C.K. Dogs are not socialized like humans are, so they don't understand that they shouldn't lick their nuts in front of other people. But I know a lot of guys who would lick their nuts in private if they could.
Yeah, but there is.
They're not doing. The dogs are not doing it to be gross. They're just cleaning themselves.
Yeah, but I value. Yeah, they don't understand.
They're not getting off.
But that's why I'm not hanging out with a pack of fucking tiger sharks in my swimming pool. Because people have, even the worst of all people, have like some decorum. They wear clothes. They don't try and eat your food when you look away most of the time.
So dogs don't have the intelligence level of even an idiot human being, which is true. They have like the intelligence of like a 14-month-old child or whatever it is, some level of something. They actually, domesticated dogs couldn't take care of themselves in the wild, but if wild dogs obviously can take care of themselves in the wild, but they don't have the intelligence level of even a moronic human being. Yet, Matt, let me point out, as a dog person, that they offer other things to people, which is one, they don't talk, which is a great benefit.
Bark.
Yeah.
If you started hooting and hollering when the mailman just came up recently,
Yes.
I wouldn't.
But they only bark
hang out
like
with you.
10 minutes a day. So one of the things people like about dogs is they don't talk back, but they don't talk. And a lot of guys, I don't know why women like dogs so much, but a lot of guys really like a companion that doesn't speak. I mean, I think in a secretive poll, if men were asked if they would like their girlfriends or wives just never to speak again, they would probably, a lot of them would choose the complete mute, the option of the complete mute.
Right.
So a lot of men are very solitary creatures, and they may want one other person in their life or one other thing to relate to, but they don't want to talk yapping all the time or talking all the time. So a dog offers that. A dog offers opportunities for exercise and outdoor activity.
You'll get a sex doll if that's your criteria. But,
Unlike a lot of young American males, dogs prefer to be outside than they do inside. They actually like to run around outside.
Yeah,
They don't play video games. They don't play video games and hang out watching TV. And they're also very openly affection, undying affection. You could beat your dog, and your dog would still love you.
But part of that is that you give it food.
Yeah, but it's also they have a childlike, because they have childlike intelligence, attachment to their parent figure. So like an abused child who still loves their parents, you could, in a sense, if you wish to be a horrible person, and still would have this one dog, while the rest of the world thought you were a fucking huge asshole and hated you, you would still have this one dog who would fucking lick your hand and think you're the best thing ever.
Right, which is why a dog's affection means nothing to me, because it would love a fucking serial killer.
Probably.
And also, if you need that kind of reassurance, it's like, so you've alienated all of humanity, and the only person that can tolerate you is this dog.
Yes.
So
yes, you need some. I think everyone needs some. You don't want to become like the Unabomber. Everyone needs somebody, something in their life to have some sort of emotional attachment to. I don't understand why women so much. I understand why women like cats. I don't understand why women like dogs so much. And I think women do use animals to displace men in their lives.
well, they need to care for something.
They need to care for something, and they need someone to love, and they need someone to love them back, and some emotional attachment. And it's a lot safer to have a pet than it is to have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I think that is unhealthy for dog being a man's best friend, I can see why men as more lone wolves would want, as loners would want a companion that doesn't talk and does exactly what they says and is very low very low maintenance.
Yeah.
Not they shouldn't have sex with the dog, but the guys still need to have sex. But in terms of the other things that women need emotionally out of life that men don't necessarily need, the dog provides enough of that to a man.
I just thought of a great idea when you were talking about how a lot of men would sometimes prefer their significant other shut the fuck up for a while. So do you know have you ever done this? I haven't, but it's Valentine's Day or Christmas or your birthday, and you say, this year I'm gonna, instead of just buying something, I'm going to take out the trash every day for a month and something like that, or I'm going to cook dinner once a week this whole year, something like that, right? So I'd be like, that's a fantastic gift. And so for me, I'm going to have a mute button.
Yes.
So like one night a week when I push the button, you don't talk.
Wow.
Now no one would be able to actually handle that.
No.
Man or woman.
No one's going to give you that gift, Matt.
And it would backfire, and you would be seen as a misogynist. And
you know who that would work with? A dog. So my dogs were being very annoying and barking, so I ordered them to the back of the house and closed the door. Would you want someone in your life like that, who is being annoying, and you could just tell them to go in the back of the house and close the door? And by the way, while they're back there, all they're thinking about is, what did I do wrong?
Probably.
Not what an asshole that guy is. What they're thinking is I can do better. I can do better next time. I can make him happier. I can make him happier next time.
Yeah, I get
it's sort of
your
an
point.
It's sort of an ideal relationship.
I look at it as like choosing to have a severely disabled child. And so you're like, hey, why'd you buy that disabled child, it wasn't an accident. It's not like you came and your wife and you had 2 dogs, right? So
yes.
Like, Matt, why did you go purchase that? That seems like a weird purchase. You went out of your way to get that, and now it's like, so are you going to come to the bar after the game? No, my severely disabled child has been locked in my house all day. Some people call it abuse. I don't know. And, I have to go change its diapers, take it outside to piss, and and no, I can't go on that vacation either unless I hire a social worker to be around my house while these are all things that I look at as chores: feeding it, taking care of it.
It's very for the amount of affection you get in return for the amount of effort you put out. It's a very dramatically a relationship that favors the human being most definitely. You feed the dog once or twice a day. If you have a yard, if you don't have a yard, you take it out to walk and take a shit, and that's about it. I think men would ideally see that as a perfect relationship, and for that, the dog for the next 15 years will love you and do whatever you say, follow your orders, and do whatever you want, and love you undyingly no matter what. But I do agree with you that once you get past a childhood age, children see the animals as part of the family. If you're an adult and you see it that way as human beings, that is wrong. That's weird. I agree with you on that. There's something unhealthy about seeing an animal as a person, whether it be the PETA people or the people who go to protest at Disney animal movies, or the people who want to save the seals or whatever like that. The people who see animals equal to human beings as adults, once you're past the age of, say, 12 or 13, then you have some sort of psychological issue with not handling real human relationships.
Yeah, because if you're seeing the dog as an adult and, you have it tied up outside the Trader Joe's, and now it's helping a 4-year-old to walk by.
Yes.
We have to put your dog in prison, actually, if it's a person.
Well, I've hit my dog. I've hit my dogs before when, especially when they're younger, when training them, and I don't beat them. I just hit them on the snout to train them. And my daughter would, if she saw me, would get really upset, as if I was beating a person. I don't beat my kids when they don't follow instructions. But you got to be able to hit. You got to be able to hit your dog. And I know some people will disagree with that, but they're animals. And in some parts of the world, large parts of the world, they eat them. And in other parts of the world, they're just used for work. They're just work animals. You come from the fucking call of the wild area, so you know that.
Yeah.
But I bet those fucking dog slider people sleep with their dogs. They love their fucking dogs.
They do, but they have respect for They do. They love their dogs, but they they don't think of their dogs as part of their family.
They don't sleep in the big house, in the master's house.
No, they think of it as a dog, like an inferior thing that happens to be very loyal and serves a purpose.
I think men get the different distinction. I think women have a tougher time not seeing family. Everything is part of their family. But I will end on, Matt, on this dog note. I think it might change your mind. My wife was at her friend's house the other night, and they have two or three dogs, I think, and one male dog and two female dogs. And the female dog in the house routinely comes over to the male dog. The male dog will lay on his back, and the female dog, so signaled, will come over and start blowing the male dog.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
Like legitimately full mouth around penis in the act of oral they don't know what they're doing, obviously, but in the act of pleasuring the male dog.
Are the friends like, stop this, or this is, you guys got to see this trick?
Yes, the latter.
Oh, sweet.
So the male dog, whenever the male dog signals the female dog, he rolls on his back. He gets a Hummer. So I hope that changes your opinion on dogs being even better perhaps than human beings.
I had no idea they could blow each other.
Yes,
you stepped up.
I've heard the licking before. This actually apparently is a full on fellatio. So
You think it's kind of toothy?
I don't know. I don't think the male dog cares. I think he's just really. Let's face it. If you're a male dog, you know how hard it is to get a blowjob. How hard it is to get a blowjob. You have something you wish to pimp and promote on the show this week, Matt? Something you're selling?
Not really. MattRalston.net, Instagram, the Matt Ralston, Twitter, Matthew Ralston.
I gotta send you some
Fuck
Serena Williams pictures.
Yeah,
I gotta find some. I literally was like, as much as we make fun of Serena Williams all the time for her body shape, this one, like, I just literally like a noise came out of me when I saw it. It was like I thought like I was seeing like some sort of weird, like having I actually literally rubbed my eyes like in the cartoons, like to see if I was seeing straight,
like almost as if
it's so exaggerated.
When you saw Andre the Giant for the first time.
Yeah, like, is that real? Is he on stilts or
is
some
it
sort
that,
of?
Is it that jarring?
Well, it's not, because she was already the biggest person in tennis before, but now she's like the really, really biggest person in tennis before.
Right.
So like if some tiny tennis player turned out to be enormous, then it would be more shocking. But this is like, oh my God, I'm pulling up pictures of it right now. All right, that's our show. Last Man on Earth. Talk to you next week.
What makes a man? Is it the power in his hands? Is it his quest for glory? Give it all you got to fight to the top, so we can know your story. Now you're a man, man. Now you're a man, man. You are now a man, you're a man. Now you're a man.